And here we go.
Suggs for the win! Oh, yes!
Jesperson, half-court lead for the win!
Jesperson does it! It's Page off balance. Puts it up!
Hello, friends. Welcome back into another episode of the D1 and Done Pod. This episode brought to you by your official Mountain West and SEC correspondents and the benefactors of the pod, the Hagen Hall Boys. Make sure you give us a follow on our social media pages. That's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. You can interact with the show by leaving us a message over email. It is d1anddonepod@gmail.com. You can listen to us wherever you may find your podcast, but we're mainly on Spotify. Leave us 5 stars because we are a 5-star pod here today, ladies and gentlemen. No doubt about it. If you leave us 4 stars, we're coming after you because we actually did our homework and we did our prep for this one. This one deserves to be a 5-star pod. I'm Robbie Donahoe. Alongside me, Dusty Mills, Nick Mills. This is actually our first pod that we are doing over Zoom, so we actually get to see everyone's faces on the video call, but there's one more, much more handsome face that is with us here today. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Brian Hadad of SuperTalk, Mississippi, hopping on with us here tonight. Brian, as many...
Somebody behind me?
Brian...
Rizzo?
No, we're not talking about Rizzo. Okay. Brian is of SuperTalk, Mississippi State guy through and through. Covers the Bulldogs on the Mississippi State sports beat. We thought it was a good time to have Brian on the pod because, you know, there may or may not have some sort of firestorm come through because all Brian did was just pass along just a friendly little mention or note on Twitter because he saw that our good pal Dusty did not rank Mississippi State in his top 25 last week. So Brian didn't do anything nefarious. All he did was just, he wanted to say, he tweeted was, I need to see Dusty show his work. And that then created a firestorm of about 50 messages, multiple follows, people telling us how terrible we are, and it was all because of you, Brian. So we have to say thank you for that.
I create controversy, and controversy creates cash. So that's how we like to roll.
And cash is king, ladies and gentlemen.
King.
Well, I mean, we would be remiss if we didn't start the show talking about Mississippi State and Kentucky. So Mississippi State, another tough loss to the Wildcats. It's now been 15 years since the Bulldogs defeated the Wildcats in the regular season. Brian, you had the boots on the ground for that one. As a common observer, we're going to get the Kentucky side of things here in a moment, but as someone who's been at Humphrey Coliseum, who knows Starkville well, who knows Mississippi State men's basketball well, this felt like this was always the way it was going to end, unfortunately, even though I thought State played a pretty good game.
Second verse, same as the first, and except it's now we're the 19th verse.
Yeah.
It's the same as the first with Mississippi State and Kentucky. I mean, it's just the same game every year. State comes out hot, Kentucky fights back, Kentucky grabs the lead, State fights back, and then the last few minutes you kind of go back and forth, but Kentucky always makes the plays to win. 16 of 32 shooting from behind the arc is probably going to beat anybody you play.
Yeah,
and I would include the Lakers in that discussion. You know, and for State, you know, you come into that game and you're thinking Kobe Bray, all right, you got to keep an eye on him. Don't let him get hot. He's 1 for 5 in this game, but they found other guys, namely Jackson Robinson, who was just outstanding. 7 of 10 from behind the arc. I mean, just really, really good. They had guys step up, and then on the other side of it, State just ran out of gas. Hubbard, not himself, didn't play the way you would expect him to. You got a great game out of Cam Matthews. You got some moments out of R.J. Melendez, out of Claudell Harris. I thought the injury to Riley Kugel was huge for State because he came out and hit a couple of shots early, and you're thinking, okay, this is a guy who's played Kentucky before. He's played in the SEC. He's ready for this moment, and then he gets hurt, and he has to come out for most of the first half. They bring him back in the second half. He looks like he's going to be okay, and then he gets a different injury, and that really hurt State because he's probably he had 8. He's probably worth another 8-9 points the way he was playing early on. So just a tough loss for State. Bad news, you got no time to mourn, as Chris Jan said in the press conference. You're going to number 1 Auburn on a Tuesday night to play a wounded Tigers team.
That's right. Nick, I'm going to leave it to you to get the first question fired off to our good pal Brian here.
Oh, just first of all, I just want to add to one of his points. He's talking about how every game's the same with Kentucky, Mississippi State. Like 3 of them have gone to overtime, by the way. Just Kentucky always just finds a way to win, which I do sympathize. As a Kentucky football fan, we did lose 30 in a row to Florida at one point and Tennessee football.
It's true.
So we have felt that side of it, so it's weird to be on this end. So actually, that really is my first question, kind of to you. I don't even see this to gloat again because 19 in a row. Yeah. It's not even really a question, just like – because, again, Rob, you're a Colts fan. We lost like 20 in a row to the Steelers at one point. Like, there's just nothing worse when you play a certain team. You just know you're going to lose. So
I watched Purdue football lose 11 straight games this year, and none of them were close outside of one. So I know what it's like to lose consistently, yes.
So I guess my overall question is, a game like this, like, do you ever think Mississippi State's going to win the game? I guess it's kind of my basis. When you play Kentucky, at any point in the game, do you think –
does it become more mental at that point then?
Right.
Well, just from my perspective, I always say that like history is fun to talk about, but it really doesn't matter, especially in the transfer portal era. It'd be one thing if this was a state team that was veterans that had been at state for 4 years and had lost 5 or 6 games to Kentucky. But it's just not the case. Cam Matthews is the only one who's lost all these games. He's the only guy who's been here this whole time. I thought coming into the game, State had a great chance to win based on the way they were playing. And then you saw the way Kentucky played against Georgia. I thought, man, maybe playing on the road, I think State can can have a chance in this game. I also said that Kentucky going 0-2 on the week seemed very unlikely. The comment I made on my podcast was State fans were probably cheering for Kentucky against Georgia because they did not want them coming in off of a loss. So when State grabbed the lead, was it 80-78 with 8 minutes to go? I thought because that's when they brought Hubbard back into the game, and I was like, man, if Hubbard can get going here, they have a real chance to win. But at the same time, like you said, it's Kentucky. Mississippi State, for football purposes, Robbie knows this, that when they played LSU, they lost, 21 straight to the Tigers at one point.
Yeah.
It was just sometimes you just see the uniform and you're like, the game's already over. And that's kind of where they are with Kentucky basketball right now.
Dusty, you're weirdly grinning right now. I'm very concerned.
No, we have a group chat going on. I don't know if you saw the text.
I did.
Brian, I actually have 2 things for you.
Sure.
3 things. So number one is that was an incredible game. Mississippi State's good. And just so you know, Brian, the reason I did not rank them last week, I did not intentionally make this a big thing. We were trying this year to make the podcast not very Kentucky, Purdue, and SEC bias. Mm-hmm. Last week when I was doing my rankings, I was like, okay, I don't want to rank freaking 75 SEC teams. So that's the only reason I left Mississippi State and Ole Miss out. And they got the backlash.
Well, I didn't have a problem with Ole Miss.
Exactly. That's what we said.
Yeah. And then I realized that we get this backlash, and it's like, oh, crap, they play Kentucky this week. So now we have more of a thing going on.
Were you prepared to bear the brunt of a jinx? If State had won, I would have come on this show and said, they found out what you did, Dusty.
I'm ready to buy the cowbell. Like that was what I committed to last week. I was going to buy a cowbell if Mississippi State won at Vandy and against Kentucky. Mm-hmm. So that's one. I mean, it was an amazing game. Mississippi State's really good. I put them at 25 this week just to be an a-hole. And my troll is to put UC Irvine at 24.
Yeah, that's all.
I mean, they are a top 15 team. And, I mean, for Hubbard not to come out looking – that's the type of game I thought he would come out and drop, 28-30 and just be like,
and he hit his first 3, too.
Yeah, when he sees that first one go in, it's like, uh-oh. Like it could be one. Yeah, it's one of those nights. I think the best play of the game was that Cam Matthews reverse slam.
It was
like
great.
that was that when that happened, it felt different. I will say, when that happened, that's not a moment that I've really seen in a State Kentucky game in a while. Outside of that Josh Hubbard 3 that tied it last year, like those moments don't happen very often for State. I feel like when they play Kentucky, it just. I don't know. It was just in that moment, it just felt different.
I think Hubbard is bearing the brunt of 2 different things. One, this time a year ago, he was not the first name on the scouting report. Your scouting report on State last year was Tolu Smith. They're going to get the ball down low. They're going to want to rock fight you to death. Now it's you have to stop Hubbard. You cannot go under a screen on him. He will shoot and he will make it. The other side of that is with the injury State had with Kanye Clary, and then with Kugel going out. Josh Hubbard's not a point guard. He is a 2 guard. He's a small 2 guard, but he's a two guard.
Yeah.
But State's having him run some of the off. It's interesting. You want to run the offense through Hubbard, but Hubbard's the one trying to run the offense through Hubbard right this second for Mississippi State. So unless Clary can come back, hopefully Kugel is going to be back. I just by happenstance happened to run into Kugel on the way out Saturday night. He was limping a little bit, but wasn't wearing a boot, wasn't wearing an air cast or anything. And I just said, how are you? And he's like, I'm just making it through. I'm all right. And so
is that breaking news? Can we say that's news that we haven't been?
I mean, I already broke it. I did it on my podcast. Right?
Okay, well, we got to make sure we push Brian's podcast, but we got. I have ruffled some feathers in the past with Mississippi State SIDs, finding out information and not letting them know first, and they get very agitated with me. So I just want to make sure that we don't.
I can't help that I saw him on my way to my.
It will still happen.
I can't help it.
It will still happen. Previous SIDs have gotten mad for much, much less, but yes.
Well, we've already ticked off Mississippi State, so we might as well just keep it going.
State people still. State people still like me. Come on now.
Woman.
What'd you say, Dusty?
I didn't have sexual relations with that woman.
Gosh, Dusty. Anything else or Brian? I know there was something else you want to mention.
My biggest thing was, Brian, I know some of your background, but just for our listeners, I know we don't have a ton, but I just want to hear your story and how you got to where you're at.
Oh gosh,
ooh,
Robbie, how much of this have you told them?
I only told them that you're a Mississippi State grad. I didn't even tell them about the Bulldog Sports radio days or anything like that. So you could go back as far as you want to.
I got $40,000 laying around so they could pay me back.
Brian, good-looking male would be joining us today. That's all I.
Again, where is that guy?
I said handsome man. It's a handsome hour. I'm sorry.
I got into media. It's been it'll be 12 years this September. I used to be in the restaurant business, and this
Hooters.
Do what now?
Hooters.
Yes, I was one of the girls.
Yeah.
That was before the operation, which worked well. I mean, look at this beard. I was working, and a podcast company was getting started. They were really ahead of their time. I'll give them credit. They were team-specific podcasts. So each network only had podcasts about your team. So we started out, it was a Mississippi company. They started with State and Ole Miss. I hosted a podcast with Robbie and I's good friend, Bob Carskadden, which I did for...
Shout out.
Yeah. So I did that podcast for 4.5 years. And then in 2018, the company, just some bad financial, it's a startup. So bad financial decisions, bad management, and went under. At the same time, a statewide job opened up here with SuperTalk. And I interviewed and I got that job. I started out as just like an MSU correspondent. I would do an hour of radio with those guys a day, just talking strictly about Mississippi State. And apparently I was okay at it, so they've turned me into like an actual host. I do 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. I have my own show, which is just Mississippi State stuff, 1 day a week, and I still have my podcast. I got to be coming up on like 2,000 podcast episodes.
Jeez. At
this point, between B&B and Thunder and Lightning. So yeah, and it was one of those things. I didn't plan to get into media. I didn't have a path. I didn't study it in college to get into media. Dusty's heard enough. He's out.
Dusty's had enough of this.
He said, I can't take any more. But yeah, that's where that's how I got here to this interview, basically.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a fun story, especially if you know like the old stuff working at the pizza place.
Are we allowed to say the pizza place? I know the
Papa
pizza
John's.
place. Okay, can we say Papa John's?
That's what we ordered for dinner.
Oh, that sounds great.
I'm excited.
I do want Papa John himself. He's a great guy.
So I worked for Papa John's for almost 20 years and never met that guy. He came to the restaurant I worked at twice on days I was off.
No kidding. So, wow. Well, I mean, you got two Kentucky guys on here, so obviously they don't really care for anything Papa John, Louisville, anything like that. So,
hey, when I first started with Papa John's, we were introducing Italian sausage as a topping, and Rick Pitino was the spokesman for that. He was doing our ad.
So. About Italian sausage, doesn't he?
Yeah, he is an expert on that, available in different sizes depending on what's going on.
Depending on the night.
Yeah.
#year2 Patino. Brian, the trajectory of this Mississippi State team, are you encouraged overall by how they've been playing lately? Obviously, they've got good wins on the resume. That road Memphis win's probably going to be the best win they have going forward. Mm-hmm. It feels like they're kind of slotted into like a 2, 3, 4 seed in the early projections of bracketology. Do you like kind of where they're headed currently?
I do. This is a tough. This is the thing about the SEC. We're going to be saying this for everybody. They're about to enter a tough stretch.
Yeah.
You look at their next few games. They're at Auburn, then they host Ole Miss, then they're at Tennessee. They get a little bit of a break going to South Carolina. It's still on the road, where Auburn nearly lost this weekend, and then it's Alabama at home. So that's your next 5 games.
Jeez.
So a lot of opportunity. If you can get a couple of wins in there, you're doing well.
Sure.
I like where they are. I don't think Hubbard will continue to struggle. He'll come out of it at some point. And the thing they have this year, they have more scorers. Last year, if you could shut down Hubbard and Tolu Smith, you were going to beat Mississippi State, no question. Now Melendez can play. Kugel can get you points. Keyshawn Murphy is much improved. He can get you some points. Nwoko was in double digits, and if he can stay out of foul trouble, I think he's got a very high ceiling. And then Cam Matthews. Matthews maybe the most versatile player in the maybe in all of college basketball. That's a guy that if he could shoot jump shots would be a lottery pick. The problem is he can't shoot jump shots.
Crazy. Nick, Dusty, anything else I'm missing for Brian before I kind of open up in terms of SEC basketball then?
No, I kind of agree with the overall sentiment. Mississippi State, again, in that game, their top 3 scorers were 13 of 34 from the field. Kentucky was 16 of 32 from 3, and they still almost won the basketball game. Mm-hmm. I agree all around. Mississippi State's really good. And like you said, the SEC, in our rankings, I have 7 of my top 14 from the SEC, so it's just going to be a bloodbath. Really not much more to add other than 19 in a row. And thanks for coming on, Brian.
You're welcome.
Hey, I have them ranked 12. I want that for all the listeners out there. I did have Mississippi State ranked high.
I
love Kentucky, by the way. I got no issues with Kentucky. I'm still living off of y'all's win over Ole Miss in football. That was maybe my favorite moment of the season.
Our only SEC win.
Buddy, you picked. If you only could win one, you picked the right one.
That's the right one to do it.
Oh my gosh.
I agree with that. By the way, I think SEC. I think Mississippi State consistently is the most likable team in all sports. So I agree with that.
Well, it's because we have guys like Robbie Donahoe carrying the banner for us.
Someone's got to do it up here. I mean, Grace Ibarra is now up in St. Louis, so she's kind of running it for a little bit as well. Yeah. Courtney Robb up in the Chicago area. There, Yeah, so we
and you got unlikable guys like Brandon Walker. So you can't got to watch out for that guy.
I don't even think Nick and Dusty know kind of the early beginnings of Brandon Walker at the Commercial Dispatch.
We know all about those early beginnings.
Oh, we sure do. We sure do indeed.
He's part of my coaching tree as well.
That's a good way of putting it. I like that.
Yeah. I don't know. Nick Saban is part of the Don James coaching tree. It's kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah.
He outdid the teacher was not as good as the student.
Correct. Very much so. You mentioned Auburn, Ole Miss, Tennessee, South Carolina, Alabama. I mean, there's some winnable games. I mean, Missouri as well.
Yeah.
Is this 24, 25 win Mississippi State team are we looking at here then?
So what? That's
10 more wins. 10 more wins.
11 more wins.
Yeah,
that seems high.
Okay.
I think State would be doing really. If State finishes 500, that's probably going to be good enough for a 4 or 5 seed.
Mm-hmm.
The way that the way their resume stacks up. With Ole Miss, this, Robbie, that tends to split between the home teams.
Yeah.
They're the teams they play twice are Ole Miss, Alabama, and Carolina. So it kind of balances out, right? Ole Miss, you feel like, maybe split with them. It'll be tough to beat Alabama. The way Alabama plays, kind of similar to the way Kentucky plays in that they get they shoot threes, and the way they run their offense is designed to get open looks at 3, and State has struggled with them. James was 0-4 against Nate Oates in his short tenure here. But so you figure you probably lose both to Alabama, but you feel like you can beat South Carolina twice.
Right.
So as far as the schedule worked out, that's about as good as you could get. You only play Auburn once, it's on the road. You only play Tennessee once, it's on the road. So that's tough. Do I know?
No Johni Broome. So you get him.
That's a big plus, but that's still a good Auburn team even without him.
Right.
You get Florida. You had Kentucky at home, and you didn't beat them, so that you're behind the 8 ball there. You play Florida once, it's in Starkville, so maybe you can see what happens with that game. And then the rest of the games, Georgia, LSU, Missouri, Texas, Oklahoma. What a disappointing team that is. I said when they lost to Alabama, I said, a top 15 team should not go on the road and get handled the way that Oklahoma got by Alabama, and now they're 0-3 in the conference. So I get them right every now and then.
Brian, they're my team that I said is just going to fall off the rails.
I just don't. I agree with you, Dusty. I don't think they're a very good team.
They lost to A&M at home without Wade Taylor.
They were up 18.
They were up 8. Yeah, they were up 18 that game.
18-point lead at home. That's not. State was up 4, and I feel bad about it. Like, God, they should have held on to that lead. They lost an 18-point lead at home without the team's best player. That's inexcusable.
One thing that State does have going for them, and then I'm going to get your thoughts on the SEC. Then we'll get you out of here. They finished the season playing LSU at home, Texas at home, then at Arkansas. Those are the last 3 games for Mississippi State. That's a really easy, navigable stretch to end the season.
I'm going to talk while I'm talking. I want you to look at while I'm talking, Robbie. Look at Ole Miss's last 4 games.
Uh-oh.
I want you to look at that. Yeah, the only thing that you don't
Lord
look there
Jesus.
is that
at Auburn, Oklahoma, Tennessee, at Florida.
That's how Ole Miss finishes the year.
Oh, boy.
The only thing that you worry about in there is that with Arkansas, I'd rather play them now while they're struggling, because you feel like Calipari will get it going at some point. They have some talent there. So, and on the road, Bud Walton, tough place to play. State's had some success there the past few years.
Recently, yes, but from 11 to 18, it was
couldn't win there.
Could not happen.
So we'll see. I like, if they can get 3, they have 2, they can get 3 there and then find 4 or 5 more in the middle, then that's going to be just fine. 10 and 8, you're probably a 3 seed. And man, considering, 2 years ago they were in the play-in game, last year they were an 8 seed. And I've said it many times, that loss to Southern last season cost them at least 1 line of seeding.
Yeah.
I mean, they probably were a 7 seed, or maybe even a 6 seed, had they not lost that quad 4 game at home. This year, it continues to build up. Jans is recruiting really well. It feels like the program is, I hate to say back, because what's back, right? Mississippi State has been a team that, making the NCAA tournament is a successful season. There's no question. You'd like to go further. State went to the Final Four in 1996. They have not been to the second weekend since.
Right.
And that's, you consider how many, they had some good teams in there, but they haven't been able to get to that second weekend. They hope that changes this year.
The SEC tournament.
Do what now?
I said, didn't that 9-16 beat Kentucky in the SEC championship?
They did. And the State's won, 3 SEC tournaments in that time frame, but they have not been able to maybe it's 4. They have not been able to advance to the Sweet 16 since 1996.
I'm going to assume, so we'll end it on here. Auburn go for it, Dusty.
Right, Robbie.
Okay. Auburn, are they going to win the SEC? Is it? I mean, I know Alabama's starting to put it together a little bit, but it seems like they're in maybe Florida if you can win enough games at home and stay hot. I think
to know how many games Johni Broome is out.
Yeah.
I can answer that question. If you tell me he misses just the 2 games this week, they're probably going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if he misses 4 or 5 weeks, I can't see them winning the conference. They'll still be really good, but Alabama, Florida, Kentucky's only got 1 loss. I mean, that's still a good team. They can score on anybody. So, yeah, I can't see them winning the conference if Broome is going to miss 8 to 10 games.
Nick?
Would you guys break Auburn got in their schedule so every SEC team gets a weekday game off, like they go Saturday, and that's coming up next week for Auburn. Instead of these 2 games coming up, and they don't play next week.
That's very helpful.
Yeah, so he may only miss, 4 or 5 games for them.
Yeah.
Dusty?
Yeah, so 2 questions. 1, have you met Jarvis Bernardo?
Or DeBost.
Or that's the second person.
DeBost. Wow.
I don't think I met either one of those guys. I was before my time in media.
You didn't? Wait! You didn't meet DeBost?
My first year on the beat was 2013.
That's right, and he was done in 12. Oh my gosh, yeah. Okay.
I started my first season in basketball was the first year of Rick Ray.
I'm so
sorry. Did you see the tweet from Six Pack on Tuesday?
No.
He said, because State played Vanderbilt and won, he's like, this is the best Mississippi State game that Rick Ray's ever seen. I was like, God,
That
dog,
hurts.
Man. I always liked Ray. He's
That
a nice
hurts.
guy. I still use one of the things he said. He used to say all the time in the press conferences. You remember, he's like, if I knew the answer to that, I would make a lot more money.
Yes, he said that
I
many
say that
times.
all the time.
Yeah.
That and Mouse in the House.
Oh, love that as well. D. Boss is, for my money, I mean, D. Boss, one of the most underrated players in the history of Mississippi State men's basketball. So
Really
good.
Really good. That's a guy who
Yeah.
he could have had a career at the next level. It just didn't.
No, it just didn't work out.
So there's one. Number two, Brian, just off the cuff, favorite Mississippi State basketball memory right now.
I was in Rupp Arena when State beat Cincinnati to go to the Final Four.
Wow.
And so that's probably it. I mean, we were in Starkville. State beats UConn in the Sweet 16.
Yep.
The game ends. We just look at each other and go, let's go. We get in the – I mean, this is college age. We get in the car, drive all night to Lexington, get up, go out to Rupp, find some UConn fans who were looking to sell their tickets at that point. We buy them, go back to – we had a friend who had an aunt who lived in Cincinnati. So we drove over there, slept for a couple hours, and then go to the game on Sunday, and then immediately drove back down after the game, which was not pleasant. So that's probably it. So yeah, my favorite MSU basketball memory might have happened in Rupp Arena.
That's awesome.
Believe it or not.
Those are the stories I love. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's a funny one.
I want to go back through that. I want to go through that box score. Do you remember who the leading scorer was in that game?
For State?
Yeah.
In 96?
In 96.
It's either Darrell Wilson or Dante Jones.
Dante Jones had 23 in that game. Yeah. 23 points.
Dante Jones is my all-time favorite Mississippi State basketball player. Only played for 1 year, but State went to the Final Four that year.
Yeah, not a bad year.
Was it Eric Dampier on that team?
Dampier was on that team. Yep.
Dampier locked up Danny Fortson.
Oh, Danny Fortson was on that Cincy team. Wow.
Yeah, and Art Long.
Dang.
Art Long. I've not heard that name in so coincidentally so long.
Yeah.
My gosh.
That game, and then
I'm forever a Super D guy. So Darrell Wilson's probably my favorite guy from those 90s
I got to know.
teams.
He was my daughter's PE teacher for a couple of years when she was in elementary school. Yeah, he's a coach now up at I think he's still coaching at Itawamba.
That sounds right, yeah.
And so the other game that stands out to me through the years is there was a game against Ole Miss. This was Ole Miss was good. They still had the Provine kids, Robbie. It might have been a little bit before your time.
I was gonna say that was probably before me because the Provine kid
Justin
I remember.
Reed and Aaron Harper.
Okay, yeah. So the Provine kid for me was Jarvis Summers, but that was like that was 2010.
Of course,
yeah.
Malik played at Callaway. So
yeah, Malik played at Callaway. Yep.
Yeah, but Wayne Brent was his coach, who was at Provine with him.
Correct. Yes.
But so State's playing Ole Miss. I think they were both in the top 25, and it's just one of those things I remember. State's up 10 seconds to go. Ole Miss has the basketball. They call timeout, and all we're thinking is, don't let Aaron Harper get a look because he was an assassin three-point shooter. And sure enough, Ole Miss comes out of the timeout. They run a double screen. Harper gets a wide-open look. That ball hung in the air for 6 years. I was just, no! And it clanked off the iron, and State won the game. And I was just like, how did he get an open look? I would have hit him with a knife before I let him shoot the ball. And that's what happened. That's another that game always sticks out in my head of maybe my favorite game that State won at the Hump.
That's awesome. Well, go for it, Nick.
Yeah, two things. One thing, I just want to go to football side real quick before we go. First of all, I thought Nick.
We have to?
No, I just have a question for you because I have to ask. First off, I thought Nick Fitzgerald was going to be better than Dak Prescott. I was very wrong on that.
That's a take right there.
What a take.
I have to ask because he's maybe my favorite person of all time. May he rest in peace. Mike Leach. Do you have any stories of him like that we've not heard before? I just always have that.
Gosh.
I didn't myself. I did not ask you that.
So I don't know if Robbie's ever told you. My wife hosts a Christmas party every year.
Whoa, wait, hold on. Can we say legendary Christmas party?
Legendary Christmas
party. Thank you. Good. I'm glad
I invite everybody on the beat.
Yeah.
We'll have 40, 50 people over. She bakes all these cookies and makes all this stuff. It's incredible, right? So I send Leach a text. It's like, hey, my wife does. So let me take this back a little further. Leach does the interview after the game with Vanderbilt where they're talking about Halloween candy. And he talks about how much he loves Almond Joys. So I text him, and I'm like, hey, my wife makes these Almond Joy cookies. Do you want some? Yes. I was like, all right, I'll send her to the coach's show with the cookies. So she goes up there. She's got a tin full of Almond Joy cookies. And she texts me. The show starts at 7. She texts me. He's like, it's 7:05 and he's not here yet. I was like, yeah, get used to that. He'll be there when he gets there. It's Mike Leach. Nobody tells him when to show up. He shows up like 10 minutes. Poor Neil Price is just talking. Leach isn't there. So he does the show. I'm out to dinner with a friend. At like 8:05, I get a phone call, and I just see Mike Leach. I'm like, oh, God. So I pick up, Brian, these cookies are outstanding. I may have already eaten 6. So I tell that story to tell you, Mike Leach was aware of the prowess of my wife's cooking.
Sure.
So I text him. I'm like, hey, we're having this Christmas party. Do you want to come? Everybody will get a kick out of you being there. He's like, what time is it? I tell him. He's like, we got some recruiting going on that day, but I will make it over there. Well, sure enough, day of the party, about 8 o'clock, he texts me. He's like, what's your address? So I give him the address. He shows up. He's holding court, making jokes, eating cookies, taking pictures, having a great time. Pulls me aside. He's like, next year, I'm going to plan recruiting around this so that I can be here the whole time. That was the last conversation I had with him. He died the next morning.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So I don't know how long the list is, but I am one of the last people who had a face-to-face conversation with Mike Leach on this planet. And that is not something I ever could have imagined would be the case. I mean, the next day I'm getting ready to do the podcast. I get a text from a friend of ours. I won't tell you who it is, Rob, but you know her. And she's like, something's wrong with Leach. Something's going on. Like they called the team up to the facility. I'm like, I just talked to the guy 8 hours ago. Like, what do you mean? He was in my house breaking balls and talking to people. What do you mean there's something wrong with him? And he was gone 24 hours after that. It was incredible. So great guy. I'll tell you one more story. I was part of a group that would go and have dinner every year. MSU media people, some other MSU people. We invited John Cohen one year, and the next year was when they hired Leach, and we were like, do you want to bring Mike Leach? So Mike made 2 of these dinners with us. The first one, I saw that man drink 6 double crowns and a sifter of 4 roses in like a 3-hour period. The man was putting it away. Love it. The next year, he's sitting there and he's getting a little antsy, and the waiter comes over and he tells him, he's like, could you bring me a paper cup? And the waiter knew what he wanted. And he was like, you want me to put some paper towels in there for you? He's like, yes. So I was like, okay, hold on. Earlier this week on the podcast, we do a mailbag segment every week. Somebody asked, what do you think Mike Leach dips? And we were like, it's got to be like Skull Wintergreen or something. So I was like, so we had this question, what do you dip? He gave a 30-minute lecture on the science of hiding a dip in your mouth while you're on camera. Because you're not allowed to have a dip when you're on camera on the sidelines. But he always had one. And he's like, you got to have it where it's not so big that they're going to notice it, but it's big enough that it gets the job done. And, you know, you got to have an idea. I like to spit when we're on defense, and I know the camera's not going to be on me. It was incredible. 30 minutes he talked on dipping. The man could talk about anything. A treasure. I hate that we lost him. I hate it.
Absolutely. All-time legend. So
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing those. I had to ask. He's one of my favorite human beings ever.
Great guy. As people ask me all the time, like, who's the most famous guy on your phone? It's still Mike Leach.
Absolutely.
Did you call him?
I never called him. I would text him every now and then.
No, I mean, Al,
just-
can't you see him just like answering from the grave?
Oh, if anybody could do it, if anybody could answer from the next life, Mike Leach would be the one to do it. Like, oh, I got one more. I got to tell.
Yes.
Same thing. We're at this dinner. So I'm sitting at the table, and I'm actually, Leach is at the head of the table. I'm at the table. I'm like on his right hand. And my phone rings, and it's my mom. And she doesn't know where I am because I'm a grown man. And I'm like, Coach Leach, do you want to talk to my mom? And he did not hesitate. He's like, absolutely. Picks up the phone. Hello, got Coach Leach here. So he starts talking, and he's just BSing with her. And he's like, "Your son is hilarious. Love him. Great guy."
Oh my gosh.
He hands me the phone back. She's like, "All right." I pick up. "Hello?" I'm gonna do my mom impression. "Brian, was that really Mike Leach?" "Yes, ma'am." "Don't you ever do that again."
Well, if I go through my phone right now, the most famous person in my contacts list is Brian Hadad.
I actually lied. He's not the most famous guy, but I like telling the story.
I know that you stick with the story; it works. But Brian, we cannot appreciate the time that you gave us. Please go get some dinner. You're a hungry guy now, and we got to make sure you stay fed and stay healthy. So again, thank you for coming on the pod. Thank you for talking Mississippi State with us. We could not appreciate the time more. And Hail State, my friend.
Hail State. Thank you.
Where's the cowbells? Let's hear them.
Hold on.
I don't have a cowbell, but I do have I have a Jim Ellis bobblehead.
Oh, even better. What's funny is
The Grand Slam for Masters.
on my cowbell, there's a black sticker that says "Beat Kentucky" from the Thursday night blackout game. Yeah. So, and I mean, State just absolutely worked them in that game.
You even mentioned the newspapers. That was a funny. That had it hurt more. The newspapers at that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but nothing else to add.
Good times. Awesome. Thanks, Brian. We appreciate you, man.
Later.
Awesome. Appreciate it so much.
Thanks, Brian.
Oh, that was Brian Hadad of SuperTalk Mississippi, the absolute man, and we could not appreciate him more being on here and joining us for what ended up becoming just talking about Mississippi State and SEC hoops. But guys, we have a podcast that we got to do too. I don't know if you know that, but Brian, again, not only one of my favorite people that I interacted with and got to connect with while in Mississippi, just like one of my all-time favorite people in general. So, again, thank you, Brian. We appreciate him having him on and really enjoy his insight. And he's got stories on top of stories on top of stories. And I knew when you asked him about Mike Leach, I knew for a fact he was going to bring up the fact that he was there for that Christmas party. And that was one of his last moments on this earth, which is
that's insane.
Yeah, very fitting that those were his last moments on earth, was being around great people from Mississippi and enjoying some Almond Joy cookies while he was at that party. So I know Brian's wife Jennifer is legendary for her baked goods. So that was pretty incredible. So, but fellas, we got some college hoops to talk about. We talked Mississippi State, Kentucky. We gave you all of that. We got to get to our top stories of the week. Nick, we mentioned a little bit of Johni Broome. Is the National Player of the Year race getting a little more interesting now without him for the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, so I decided to talk National Player of the Year here because it was a very interesting week to it, right? Because to me, it's a two-person race for now. Obviously, that can change. But for right now, it's Johni Broome versus Cooper Flagg. And the reason it's interesting is because they both had notable weeks, right? Johni Broome goes down. Again, we all know the timetable. He's going to be out at least the next two games. We don't know anything more than that. And Cooper Flagg had a hell of a week. Tuesday, he had his first, for lack of a better term, his first highlight. He dunked on that poor Pittsburgh player.
Oh my gosh!
Rough week for Pittsburgh. The Steelers looked bad on Saturday, and the Panthers went 0-2.
Been a rough run lately. Pirates aren't very good. Steelers aren't very good.
Penguins, Crosby's on his last.
He's on his last few years. Yeah, just not going well.
All my white guys. That's Pittsburgh sports right now. So yeah, right now it's a two-man race between Flagg and Broome. Right now, I'll just give a stat real quick. Broome's 18-11, 3-3, blocks being the fourth stat, and then Flagg is 19-8, 4, and 1.2 blocks, 1.6 steals. And the reason I say those stats for Flagg, just so he leads the team in all of those categories.
Really?
Steals and blocks. So I don't know how often that's ever happened.
I believe rebounds as well.
Oh, yeah, and sorry. Whatever those five major categories are.
He leads all of them.
Gotcha.
Wow.
And then also, I think another interesting point is, so obviously Broome's out. So shout out Gary Parrish, who did the research on it. It's what's the precedence? How many games can you miss and still win it? So the two examples are Evan Turner missed 5 games in 2010, and Zion missed 6 in 2019. So if Broome misses 4 to 5, he can probably still win it. So again, I think it's down to those two. I think if I had a vote today, it'd probably be Broome, but obviously again, we still have, I don't know, a month and a half to go. I do want to say I think the closest one between those two, I think it's Cam Jones, who's 26-5 right now.
Yeah.
Marquette's 14-2. So yeah, I just thought this was a notable story because again, Broome and Flagg were kind of in the news this week. So Who? If you guys had a vote right now, January 13th, who would you guys vote for?
It's a good question. Dusty, who'd you go with?
For Player of the Year?
Yeah.
So I'll say this. On Saturday, I don't know if you guys watched College Game Day. I thought it was pretty well worded. It was actually Bill that said that if we're talking about Player of the Year in college basketball, it'd be Johni for sure.
Yeah.
Just how good Auburn is. He's the best player of the best team. But if you're voting for the best player in college basketball, it'd be Cooper Flagg.
Right.
Number one overall pick unless something changes dramatically.
Nope. Nothing's going to change.
Yeah. So it's Cooper Flagg, but I would say Player of the Year, it's still Boom unless he misses. So they're saying, 2 to 3 weeks, it sounds like?
It's for sure 2 games.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned earlier, they don't have a weekday game next week, which is very notable.
I know, which I saw Kentucky is the same thing, and next week they're off middle of the week. I think it's Boom by far, and I think Auburn keeps it showing that they are the best team in the country by far.
I said it last week. Yeah.
I forgot until I was doing some stuff today. I forgot that's who Iowa State lost to.
In Maui.
And thank you, Maui. So it has to be him right now. And if he misses 2, let's just say 3 games, worst case scenario, I don't understand how it's not him.
My only pushback to Flagg is starting to really take off right now.
Saturday,
freshman record.
Yeah.
That 42-point game, every voter is going to point to that game being kind of that sentient moment of, if we vote him Player of the Year, this guy scored 42 in a game. And Notre Dame almost came back and made that game really weird late. So, yeah, Cooper's been he's on another level right now. It's insane. But yeah, I'd probably vote Johni. Cam Jones would probably be second, and I think Cooper Flagg would probably be third. Braden Smith, not too far behind in fourth, I should mention.
And then I think Smith probably fourth, and then maybe on a Lanier and Sears, maybe
Yeah.
nearby. I don't even. Yeah, I would say that's
Somewhere around there.
it.
Yeah, that's fair. So my top story, before the season, Andy Katz came out with a list of his top 12 transfers. You know whose number 1 transfer coming into this year was?
Kadari Richmond.
Kadari Richmond was sixth. Dusty?
Is there some obvious one we're missing?
Is it Janelle?
John L. Davis was second.
Okay.
John L. Davis averaging 8.3 points per game, 3.6 rebounds per game. That's the number 2 transfer in the country. No, you will not believe who is number 1.
I'm trying to think. Is it someone? It's not Chaz Lanier, right?
No. Chaz Lanier was not on the top 12.
Who is it?
Don't think too hard about what I'm going to say here. Come on.
I'm trying to think. Purdue. Ballo.
Nope, Ballow's third.
Miles Rice. I'm just going to start.
Miles Rice not on there.
Jackson Robinson.
Think of the team that I was so excited about at the start of the season. Coleman Hawkins. Coleman Hawkins was the number 1 impact transfer according to Andy Katz at the beginning of the season.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Coleman Hawkins, 10 points, 7 rebounds.
And they are under 500.
And they're under 500. They're 7 and 8. This top 12 transfer list from Andy Katz, the bottom half is better than the top half. So you've got AJ Storr 4th, you got Cliff Amori 5th, Kadari Richmond 6th. Then you have Great Osabor playing on a very mediocre Washington team, Robbie Avila in 8th, Aiden Mahaney, who's doing terrible with UConn, and then the last 3 are having very good seasons. JT Toppin, Norchad O'Meara, Tucker DeVries. Notice how I didn't say Chaz Lanier, anyone from Kentucky, or Zurich Phelps from Texas A&M. So, Andy, you might need to work a little bit more on figuring out who the top transfers are at the start of the season. Who in their right mind would have thought that Coleman Hawkins was the number 1 transfer in college basketball?
Yeah, it's the same people who thought Kansas State were going to be good. How do you...
Yeah, who would say that? That's one of the most idiotic things ever.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like Louis said, the top 3 were Hawkins, John L. Davis, and Ballo.
Yeah.
And those cannot be Probably going about as bad as they could go, honestly.
Bowell's actually putting up numbers at least, but it's just there's been far too much controversy with him on this season. But yeah, AJ Storr has been a disaster. Cliff Amory's been a good role player. That's been about it. But that's your top five. And your top five has been very small impacts on teams that are underachieving, which maybe that goes to show you maybe you don't want to go all in on transfer pieces. I mean, if you can find the guy that you can try to get, great. But Chaz Lanier was not a hyped-up transfer. Neither was Dalton Connect. Kentucky brings it. Yeah. You don't like Jeremy Roach, super hyped guy coming from Duke. He's been very average. So I think the winning formula for adding guys in the transfer portal are not guys that have all the hype and hoopla. It's the ones that are coming in with a chip on their shoulder, have something to prove. And that's been the bigger story for me with transfers this year in college basketball. It's the guys that have something to prove and want to do something about it. Those are the guys that have been successful this year.
So Dabo's been right all along. Don't get transfers.
I've never been more upset to be agreeing with Dabo Sweeney on something. Very disappointing. Dusty, your top story from the week that was in college hoops?
Well, I'm talking about right now, not even the week before. There's so many games to talk about, but right now I'm watching Rutgers with a 50-45 lead on UCLA right now. It's pretty intriguing.
Rutgers needs that game bad.
They lost 4 or 5.
Yeah.
UCLA, by the way.
In an in-person update, Ace Bailey, 2 assists tonight.
Oh, no!
Yeah.
Too many, Ace!
Josh Hubbard had 2 turnovers on Saturday, so the race is on.
Oh, my gosh.
So the race is on.
The race is on. Incredible.
The game I actually wanted to talk about, back to the SEC, that Tennessee-Texas game I thought was very intriguing.
Yeah.
So you have Tennessee coming off, getting let's be honest, their asses kicked at Florida. You have to turn around, go on the road again to Austin. And Texas, who sadly is going to be probably one of the bottom feeders of the SEC. They gave them a game. And it took everything from Tennessee. So Tennessee, Ziegler, I think, has to be the person that he's going to be the face of that team this year. So I thought that was a great game to watch. The Iowa State comeback in overtime against Texas Tech was great to watch. I know our boy Nick had money on that game. Not that
on the Cyclones.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
It was fun.
It was fun. So,
and by the way, Dusty, shout out Trey Johnson, the freshman on Texas in that game, was insane. He did everything he could to
Trey Johnson's awesome. Without him, Texas would be a mess.
Yeah. Shout out Gus Fring.
Yeah, Dusty, by the way, move a little closer to your mic because we want to hear you a little closer if possible. You sound very far away. You said, yeah.
Leader thug right now from Drake and Josh for the record. If anyone gets that reference.
Say that again, Dusty.
Is this better?
It'll be fine. We'll make it work. Okay, so yeah, we'll make it work. So those are our top stories.
Wait, no. Other game I want to bring up too is Nick's Cincinnati Bearcats. What the hell's going on with that?
Oh boy, Nick.
It's actually pretty simple. They're just not good. I don't even have
don't say that.
40 points.
What? The game took an hour and 40 minutes. That's how quick the game was. It's 40. They're 0-4 in Big 12. They have one notable win over Xavier. It's not good. It's not. Wes Miller, he may have a little Calipari in him. He can get the talent. He can recruit. Not sure he can coach the boys up, unfortunately. And I really like Wes Miller for the record.
Nick, it's unfortunate that you started talking about John Calipari because you need to recap the week that was for Arkansas because I think part of the grin on your face, I think, is knowing that Kentucky basically can thank Arkansas for that get-out-of-jail-free card of letting Calipari walk to Fayetteville and not having to pay that buyout.
So I'm going to do 2 things about this whole Arkansas thing. First, I'll talk about what Arkansas's at overall, and then I want to talk to Dusty about this whole experience as a Kentucky Cal experience at Arkansas. So First of all, Arkansas is a mess right now. 11-5 overall, 0-3 in the SEC with 2 home losses this week. Granted, they're ranked teams, but still. They have 1 win over Michigan, which is good. Does anyone know what their next best win is?
Oh boy.
It is Lipscomb. Lipscomb's their second best win at the moment.
Lipscomb's a solid team.
Right. It's not good to be your second best win now.
No,
on
not
January
really.
10th. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not good.
So, and I told you guys have a funny stat about Arkansas. They have one win in the top 2 quadrants. Here are 3 teams. Here's my shout of the day. Shout to California State Universities, okay? Because UC Riverside, UC Irvine, and UC San Diego all have more top 2 quadrant wins than Arkansas. So shout out to California State Universities. You mentioned Robbie, John L. Davis, and James Adu have just not been what they're looking for to transfer portal. For the next 6 on the road, Kim Palm has them going 6-12 in the SEC at this point.
Oh boy,
things are looking bad for Arkansas. And again, a lot of the same issues that John Calipari had at Kentucky past couple years. So, and I want to bring this point up because I'm very conflicted on all this. I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth because, as everyone knows, and we told us last year, I wanted him fired. It was the right choice. It was time to move on. The last 5 years, whatever. Okay. And a lot of the same issues are going on, whatever. And again, in divorce, you don't want to be, even if you still love the person, you don't want to be you don't want them going off being successful. Don't marry some billionaire.
Yeah, you don't want the ex to be happy. You want them to be miserable. Yeah.
You don't want them doing better than you do,
right.
Especially in the sense he went to a conference rival. If you went to Ohio State, maybe it'd be different. Okay. So I am enjoying in that sense. There is a small part. I think a lot of Kentucky fans are really being mean to him because again, he won us a national championship. We had great times there.
You did.
There's a 2%. I mean, everyone's kind of laughing. I was like, okay, can we be a little nice to him? He saved us $33 million by leaving Kentucky. We shouldn't. So I don't know. It's a very weird experience, especially for me. He's truly the first Kentucky coach I remember. And again, he did great. I mean, it was so much freaking fun the first 7-8 years of it. So I don't know. This whole experience has been very weird. Again, Kentucky's kicking butt. We didn't get to talk much about them at this top because it's mostly Mississippi State. 4 top 12 net wins. So all that to say, poor John.
Poor John.
This is not going well for him.
Certainly it's not.
I mentioned 4 of the next 6 on the road, and then they play Alabama at home afterwards. So,
oh boy,
good luck.
It's well, I mean, at least he's friends with the Tyson Chicken guy.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to him.
I made such a big deal about that. It's like, okay, this is nice, and it's all right. This is enough. We've had enough. But yeah, it's not trending in the right direction already for Arkansas, and we'll see what happens going forward.
John Davidson scored last game, I believe. They're up 11-2 game. It's just not good. That
one is legitimately shocking. Like that, he was so good at Florida Atlantic, and it makes no sense that it hasn't been able to translate because, I mean, Elijah Martin's been fantastic at Florida. Vlad Golden's been great. I mean,
good.
Yeah, so doesn't make any sense.
There's one constant in all this, unfortunately. And I mean, he's got to learn. You keep thinking he's gonna have to change at some point, and it's not. It's not.
He's not. All. This is who John Calipari is. This is who he'll always be, unfortunately. Dusty, is there a game from the past week that stuck out to you?
I kind of like that Utah State Boise State game that I know Nick was watching Saturday night.
Yeah.
81-7 final. I think we're getting back to the groove of mid-January, and the Mountain West is back, baby. That's why they sponsor us.
I love it. Yes, that was a good game.
So Utah State, I just shout them out too on that. 3 coaches in 3 years, and they're 70-17.
Yeah,
in 3 years, insane.
Pretty incredible. The game I wanted to shout out, and Dusty has him in 24 in his rankings. Did any of you guys watch that UC Irvine, UC San Diego game? Like legitimately a great game. And if you don't, I mean, the Anteaters are going to mess up some brackets this year. It's going to happen. And they might make the tournament without even winning the Big West right now. Like, they got enough good wins on their resume, and they're 15-2. But if you don't know about this 7-footer, Bent Luchten from Germany, yes. Oh my gosh. He had 23-13 in that win over UC San Diego. He is shooting 50% from three-point range this year. A 7'1" center shooting 50% from 3.
Sit down, Wimby.
Yeah. Get out of here, Victor. You ain't got nothing on our boy Ben.
Germany beats France again, baby.
Actually, I don't think that happens.
No, I think
I think you're remembering history incorrectly.
I think they're in the lead.
No, isn't it something like when France is by themselves, they always lose?
Yes, that's what it is.
With other people, right?
Correct, yes.
I think.
Yeah.
I'm Googling it. Go ahead, though,
Okay.
Robbie.
But that game was great. Amazing atmosphere at UC San Diego, team that's really starting to finally break in to Division I college basketball. I know Purdue played there in their the preseason tournament where they beat Ole Miss and NC State, and it was a really cool environment. They're being there, very intimate, small, and a couple thousand seats. So just keep an eye on those two teams going forward because I think they're going to make the Big West a lot of fun this year, and that was a really, really, really good game. Other stories to note, we talked about the Johni Broome injury. Did you guys see in that A&M Alabama game that there was 47 total offensive rebounds? 47.
I didn't say it was 47 fouls.
No, I mean, there could have been that too. I didn't see the foul. I just saw 47 offensive rebounds. And in one possession, I think Mark Sears shot at 4 threes in a row after 3 straight offensive rebounds, which was crazy. Iowa State, maybe the best win of the week, rallying from 13 down to win at Texas Tech. JT Toppin played really well from the Raiders and the Red Raiders in that game.
He got hurt at one point, and that kind of what changed the game.
Right. Don't look now, but Tommy Lloyd in Arizona might be a wagon. Maybe.
I have them ranked. They have no bad losses.
I know. I thought about ranking them too. They just, now they're starting to stack some decent wins, and they're starting to put up some quad-win wins. So maybe things are starting to turn around. I mean, KJ Lewis is doing everything for them. Like, he's been outstanding. Caleb Love has been fine. And they don't need him to be great. Just Caleb Love, just be fine. Don't force up any stupid shots. Let's just, that's all we need from you. Speaking of our team's wagons, is Michigan State a wagon? Is this Tom Izzo's finally starting to put it together with this team here?
I think so. I have them up to 11th maybe. It's crazy. They don't shoot many threes or make many threes. And they kind of kick butt every game too.
I was shocked at how easily they beat Northwestern. That's not a team that you go on the road and beat that easily. That was shocking. Speaking of shocking in the Big Ten, Illinois, you can't lose to USC at home. Like, that's unacceptable. I don't care if Kasparis Yakachonis is not playing. Like, you can't have that happen. But that was a big win for Eric Musselman. USC really needed that win. Georgia's hot as well. They've won a couple straight, obviously one of those being against Kentucky. But Georgia plays Tennessee and Auburn this week. So we're going to learn very quickly how good Georgia is. Poor St. Bonaventure losing at the buzzer to LaSalle on a crazy buzzer beater. That was a tough one for the Bonnies. The A-10 is just an absolute mess. We have no idea who's good, who's bad, who's going to be great. They're eating each other alive. We talked about Cincinnati.
Real quick, Robbie, my 3 A-10 teams predictions, it's a little
not good
right now.
It's
not good.
It's going in the wrong direction. Speaking of going in the wrong direction from last weekend, IU went in the wrong direction on the scoreboard. Iowa was... Now, winning at Carver Hawkeye is not easy, but I had... If I was an IU fan, I was having flashbacks to that Louisville game at Mohegan Sun. Or not at Mohegan Sun, at...
I have no idea.
What was their preseason tournament?
Atlantis.
Atlantis. Battle of Atlantis. They looked like they just gave up. And it's a bad... I don't know what's going on with that team, but man, you get up on them and they don't come back.
Is it Zach Osterman at Indy Star? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Zach Osterman, yep.
So Woodson's lost 31 Big Ten games. 12 of those have been by 15 plus.
Oh my
So
gosh.
when they lose, they just... Like, they just... For lack of a better term, it seems like they just give up half the time.
Yeah. Well, it was noticeable. They definitely gave up. Villanova, maybe back, maybe not. You beat UConn, then you lose to St. John's. Grand Canyon might be in a little bit of trouble in the WAC. Utah Valley beat them this week. So Lopes don't have it easy in the Western Athletic Conference this year. We talked about Utah State. Man, they may have one of the best home court advantages in all of college basketball. McNeese still hot in the Southland. They've won 6 straight. Alcorn State, shout out to the Braves. They won their first game of the year, 62-52 over Alabama and A&M. So love to see that. We talked about the A-10 being a mess. But before we get into the upcoming schedule, I wanted us to give an opportunity where we highlight a player that might be off the radar, maybe someone that not everyone knows about. Nick, I want to start with you. Who's a player that's on your radar that maybe not everyone knows?
Sure. So, Robbie, for people out there, so kind of a little behind the scenes, I asked Robbie beforehand, like, did it have to be like a mid-major kind of guy, right? Like, how off the radar they have to be? Because my guy actually plays at power school, and that is R.J. Lewis at St. John's. And the reason I wanted to highlight him, Robbie, is because, again, St. John's is where they kind of, I didn't see the AP poll. I don't know if they're ranked or not.
Fringe top 25 team. They're not in it, but yeah, fringe team.
Which, by the way, they kind of have an Arkansas problem. They don't have many good wins, by the way. Kind of their issue right now. No bad loss, but not many good wins. But either way, R.J. Lewis has been fantastic, right? Because especially, we talk St. John's for a season. I think we only based talk about Kadari Richmond because, I love Kadari Richmond, and he's been good. Nothing like that. But
solid, yeah.
Solid. But R.J. Lewis has been their best player. What I have it right here. He's averaging 17-7 on the year. But in the last 3 games, Robbie, he's averaging 23-10, including 30-10 against Villanova on Saturday. He's a guard, by the way. Like he averages 10 boards the last 3 games. He's not like, I think he's like a 7-footer down there. So shout out to him. Ricky P's got the boys rolling. I believe it's their best start in Big East since 2000, 2001.
Really?
Them. It's either his best overall star, best Big East star. I cannot remember which one. Either way, Storm is a coming in the color of red. So shout RJ Lewis and our boy Rick Pitino.
Getting it done. Dusty, a player that you're hyped about, a primetime player?
So Mo Odom is a guy, he plays at Pepperdine right now. He started at Pacific, a guy from the Bronx, New York. Went to school in Florida on the West Oaks Academy. Averages 7.4 assists a game right now. I think he's 6th in the country. Watched him actually last week once I learned about him. And just great distributor, sees the floor really well. I could see him being maybe a 6th man in the NBA, but legit player. I mean, 6'1", so he's not going to come out here and score 20 a game. But Mo Odom from Pepperdine, watch out for him.
Is it Mo or Mel?
It's M-O-E.
M-O-E.
Mo Odom. There he is. There you go. Originally from the Bronx, New York. Man, what a journey to go from New York to Pepperdine.
Oh, he's loving the beach. We know that.
Oh, absolutely.
Those white girls.
I will never understand how Pepperdine does not have a better college basketball team. Like they should be able to recruit with ease. Like that's what
I would say about Miami too. Like,
yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, they're at least a little farther inland. But I mean, like, Pepperdine is legitimately, they are on the beach.
It's on Malibu Beach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does it feel like Florida Gulf Coast too? After their tournament run, I thought they'd be racking in the recruits after that.
Yeah,
because they're in a beautiful spot as well.
True. All right, my primetime player. I'm going to Ruston, Louisiana, where I have a man by the name of Sean Newman Jr. Not a household name by any stretch. Los Angeles native. By the way, we send our best to all of those going through the wildfires in L.A. Our thoughts and prayers are with you as you continue to go through this difficult time. So Sean obviously going through a difficult time right now with watching his hometown have a difficult time. Louisiana Tech's Sean Newman, he is the country's leader in assists per game right now. He is averaging over 10 assists per game. He had... and this was on December 21st. He had the score line of he had 7 points, 1 rebound, 20 assists. He had 20 assists in a game this year, and he's had double-digit assists in 6 games this year. So that is your country, the league leader, the nation's leader in assists. Hails from Ruston, Louisiana, and a Louisiana Tech team. It's a pretty decent team this year, and that's Sean Newman Jr. Shout out to you, my friend. That's a big deal, averaging that many assists.
And Dusty, Odom was 6 in assists? This is the guy right here.
Kick rocks, loser.
You have to go through the streets of the Bronx.
I mean, yeah, L.A. and the Bronx, two different upbringings.
Park.
What'd you say?
Newman could not handle Rucker Park.
Probably not. I mean, I don't know many that can, to be honest with you. All right, let's look ahead to our upcoming schedule. As we are potting right now, UCLA, Rutgers, Minnesota, Maryland are games that are going on. We'll give you final scores if those finish by the time we wrap this thing up. Tuesday, don't plan anything for Tuesday. But also, the SEC has to do a better job here at planning their games because there are 3 games at Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern featuring top 25 teams. There's 3 games. Mississippi State at Auburn, Ole Miss at Alabama, Texas A&M at Kentucky. All 3 games start at 7 p.m., and all 3 games are between top 25 teams. What are we doing here, guys? Come on.
I've made the joke to Dusty. It's so clear SEC just does not want to think about basketball because they just schedule 3 days a week, right? We're just going to play Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday. That's it. So I think it's the same logic here. Like, screw it. You're all playing at 7. That's all you're going to do.
And screw it, Kentucky. You're starting 11 a.m. Central on Saturdays. What are we doing?
Eastern. 11 o'clock Eastern.
Oh, is it 11 a.m. Eastern?
What it was. This one will be noon Eastern.
Oh, my gosh. Like,
crazy.
What? Who are the schedule makers of the Southeastern Conference? You guys suck.
Did you see Wednesday? Texas, Oklahoma's at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, my gosh.
They're throwing a dart at the dartboard right now.
So bad. But that 7 p.m. time slot is excellent because you also got Illinois at IU on Peacock. Baylor at Arizona is a big one. St. Louis at VCU. Toledo at Akron, a couple 3-0 teams in the MAC. And then Colorado State, San Diego State for all you degenerates to bet late night. That's going to be great. So really good games on Tuesday. After that, there's not a ton of great games. Wednesday's got some good ones. Kansas, Iowa State, that's a top 10 matchup. Georgia's at Tennessee. West Virginia's at Houston. George Mason goes to Dayton. Man, Dayton's fallen off a cliff. They've got to win that one. Purdue has their West Coast trip. They're at Washington on Wednesday night. Texas at Oklahoma, you mentioned, Nick. That's a late night game. Utah State, trying to stay undefeated in the Mountain West. They go to Vegas. Uh-oh. UNLV, tough place to play. Thomas and Mack Center, never easy. Thursday, standalone game. UTEP at Liberty. Get fired up, everyone. And then, don't look now, Gonzaga has a very difficult week this week. Thursday, they're at Oregon State. And then Saturday, they host Santa Clara. 2 teams that are in the top half of the West Coast Conference. So if Gonzaga gets both of those, then they might be smooth sailing to the end of the conference. Friday, IU at Ohio State, Iowa at UCLA, Boise State goes to the pit to take on New Mexico. Saturday's a pretty decent slate. I mean, you can start it off at 12 with Alabama, Kentucky if you want to. I mean,
I'll be there.
It's not going to be bad. We'll have some boots on the ground for that one. Thanks to Nick. Creighton at UConn, Clemson at Pitt, Auburn at Georgia. Georgia's been playing really well at home. Wouldn't be surprising if they beat Auburn in that game, especially if Johni Broome's not going to play. Queens at Florida Gulf Coast. That's a big Atlantic Sun game. Purdue's at Oregon. Wouldn't be surprised if the Ducks just crush Purdue in that game, and it's one of those weird games. That's all right. Miami, Ohio, Kent State. Tennessee's at Vandy. Iowa State at West Virginia. We got the Egg Bowl on Saturday. Ole Miss at Mississippi State, Humphrey Coliseum. I'm sure we'll have our good pal Brian Hadad there for that one, and he can give us some insight on how the atmosphere is for that one. We mentioned Santa Clara, Gonzaga. Oregon State, big week. They got to play Gonzaga and San Francisco. It's going to be tough. And then Sunday, not a great Sunday slate. Illinois at Michigan State. Memphis at Charlotte. And then the only other really good game I could pick out of that, there's 2 teams that have winning records in the Horizon League, and they play each other. Robert Morris is at Milwaukee, which, by the way, did not know Robert Morris had moved to the Horizon League. That was news to me. So I must be out of it lately. But, yeah, there's your slate of games to look forward to for this week. And, again, we'll give you final score on UCLA, Rutgers, and Minnesota, Maryland here in a moment. The Gophers hanging tough with Maryland right now.
The biggest Minnesota sporting event tonight.
Yeah, obviously, yes. Mm-hmm. Nothing else happening.
7-0 Rams, by the way.
Oh, gosh darn it. Come on, Vikings. All right. What a week it was for the locks. The fellas got them locked in, had a clean sweep. Nick, Maryland covering against UCLA. Dusty, North Carolina covering against SMU. And your boy is going to keep riding till the wheels fall off with Minnesota not being able to cover anything. So Wisconsin had no problems with the Gophers. So we are all above 500 overall. Nick leading the way 8-1 this year. I'm at 6-4 this year. Dusty back to 500. So Nick, keep it hot. What's your lock for this week?
Keeping it simple. You mentioned I'll be boots on the ground. I'll be in Rupp Arena. Kentucky hosts Alabama at noon Eastern time. A local 11 o'clock local time for those Crimson Tide. Friend of the show, who's never been on but listens, Nate Hahn, a cousin of ours.
Shout out.
With me. He's 1-0 at Rupp Arena.
Oh.
Mostly enough, it was Alabama last year we went for as well. So those are trends, Robbie. Those are trends. I'm going to ride the trends. Give me my kitty cats. And I'm 2-0 in, what's it called? In covering in my attendance this year. Give me the cats.
So are we taking money line or you want spread?
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah. I mean, for underdogs, give me money line. And for favorites, give me spread.
There you go. I like it.
Kid.
I like it. Dusty, what's your lock for the week?
I'm doing a double parlay money line.
Oh, boy. Here we go. Let's hear it. What do we got?
Butler is set to win a damn game.
Are they?
I'm taking Butler at home, money line against Seton Hall. Both these games are Wednesday, both at 7 o'clock. And I'm taking Purdue Fort Wayne on the road at Wright State. Both money line. Lock them right now.
Wow. Boy, going with Butler. Man.
In state. I like it.
I mean, Seton Hall's been awful, too. I mean, Butler's bound to win one. I mean,
that was again. Like I thought they were going to win that game.
Yeah, I thought so, too. It's shocking. So, what is Wright State not having a good season this year?
Wright State's 3-4 on the horizon, 99 overall. And our boy from high school doesn't play there anymore, so I assume that they don't have a good shooter.
Von Duggan's not there?
Von Duggan, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, what a name. All right.
Let's go, Wednesday.
All right, Wednesday. Lock it in. All right. We got locks for you Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. So Nick's got you Saturday. Dusty's got you Wednesday. I got you Thursday. DJ, play the hits. Michigan will cover at Minnesota. Keep it simple, baby. We're not changing a thing. We're going to ride till Minnesota dies.
Yeah.
I would if the spread is above 10, I'd be a little concerned. I'm guessing it's going to be like Michigan 9.5 or something like that, or 8.5. Even if it's like 10 or 11, you're good. In Minnesota, I think the fact that they're playing Maryland close, so that game just went final. Maryland won 77-71, which means Minnesota covered that game, by the way. I think now that Minnesota has found a little, oh, hey, we're getting close, we're feeling better about themselves, then Michigan's about to blitz them by 20 at Williams or at the Barn coming up on Saturday. So, or on Thursday, sorry. So, Minnesota, unfortunately, I'm sorry. It's not me, it's you. Michigan will cover with ease over the Golden Gophers, and there are your locks for this week. Again, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, we'll get them up on our social media pages so you can make money. Because, again, gambling is easy, kids. It's so easy to make money.
So easy.
That's why none of us do. All right. Nick, time to turn it over to you, my friend. It's the Funnies. They always come in hot, steaming, ready to enjoy on this cold, blustery week. Fire it up, my friend. It's Nick's Funnies of the Week.
Hello, everyone. We're back for Nick's Funnies of the Week. Again, a little bit of a slower week. Again, it goes in waves sometimes.
Goes in waves, yeah.
It's always going to be great. He's not going to be out in the Funnies because, again, I know it's been a tough week for Mick Cronin out in Los Angeles. He's talking about the stuff he's going through, but he did have quite a week on the court. He got thrown out. He has some quotes, whoever. I'm not going to address it. Poor Mick. We're praying for you on and off the court. I had to include this. Did you guys see I know this is not college basketball. The Pacers, did you guys see this? That they had the lowest number combination ever on a court together?
I did see that. Yes. 0-0, 0, 1, 2, and 3.
Which, yeah, I can't. I shoved down some Twitter account had it first. Shout out to them. But it's so stupid. It's kind of like scoregamis in NFL. Stuff like that just cracks me up. So shout 0-0, 0, 1, 2, 3. Shout out the Pacers. They're somehow in the Funnies almost every week. Shout out the Indiana Pacers.
But not for the funny reason you would think, though. You know?
Right. Exactly. It's proposals during dunk contests and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
It's good. USC Trojans are in it this week because for this fact. So as you mentioned earlier, Robbie, they won on the road at Illinois, who is a ranked team. Mm-hmm. The last time USC had a ranked road win was 2010. I audibly laughed when I heard that.
What?
It's been 15 years since USC. It's not, IUPUI. It's that insane to me. So
holy smokes!
So wow. Congratulations, USC. I guess successful season then. I guess.
Yeah.
And then one more not each, we get the winner. I didn't know whether to include this or not. I guess it's technically funny. It was funny-ish. Dan Hurley, for people who didn't see after. So on Wednesday night, UConn lost to Villanova because Alex Caravan missed 2 free throws at the end. Dan Hurley has a quote after his game. Talk about Alex Caravan, quote, "Sometimes you got to eat and maybe kiss your national title rings afterwards." Close quote.
Solid.
So, I mean, I guess it's kind of funny. He's kind of like being self-aware and also kind of being, pumping his chest out. So I guess credit when credit's due. But the funny of the week goes to maybe the school we like to make fun of most on his program, and that's the University of Tennessee. They had a funny week for 2 different reasons. One, Tuesday night, they went on the road at Florida and made 12 shots. Oh. They got absolutely slaughtered in that basketball game. They scored they barely got the 40 points. It was a hilarious basketball game to watch. I believe they made 4 shots the first half. It was 19-12 basketball, baby. But the reason they're really in the news was the Rick Barnes quote after the game on Saturday. Did you guys see this?
I don't think so.
So this in reference to Chaz O'Neal, this is the quote. Quote, "I took him out of the first play of the second half because he didn't shoot the ball. That play is designed for that shot. I told him, quote, if you're not going to do what you're getting paid to do, then you're going to sit over here because he is getting paid to do that."
Oh.
Close quote. And so he got a lot of flack for that. And if you listen to the audio, he says it tongue-in-cheek. It's a complete, ha-ha, like he's getting paid to do that. So it was a SHIT storm on Twitter over it, like she be saying that. And it's also funny, too, that in 2025, a coach can say that. Because,
yeah.
Imagine this 5 years ago, like John Calipari saying, Emmanuel Quickly's paid to do that. Hit this jumper. So shout out Tennessee. They had a heck of a week. That's the next funny of the week.
Love it. Nick, coming with the heat, as always. Thank you, my friend. Mm-hmm. Time to turn things over to Dusty. It's story time. Dusty, a Division I college basketball superstar from 2 fine establishments that I haven't actually confirmed this, but I assume Dusty's jersey and numbers are up in the rafters at Rupp Arena and Worthen Arena, but we won't confirm that. So it's time to gather around the campfire. Dusty, it's time for story time.
So I've been trying to be funnier, as you guys know, over the last couple months or a few months about stories outside the basketball arena. I actually want to tell one that I talked to my colleagues over here about my second career assist, which is a pretty cool story. So we played Florida International. I believe the game was maybe December 30th of that season. Beat the hell out of them. I actually have pulled up. We won 92-49. And it was one of those games where the coolest part about being kind of a walk-on and being a, 5'6" blonde white kid who everyone just kind of cheered for to get into the games where you'd always hear, Dusty wants to blow out. So Gillespie pulls me in the game, and I believe I've said on this podcast before he called me Ollie, with reference to the manager on Hoosiers, for those who have Google Ollie Hoosiers, because I used to shave my head for basketball season. And I get in the game with about probably a minute 20 left. Play one defensive possession, get the ball in offense, bring the ball up the floor. We run a little offense. And then I get a pass thrown to me. I'm on the wing, and I spot up to shoot. And as you can imagine, the entire play shoots like in unison. And I thought to shoot it, but
me included, by the way. I was at that game.
Wait, say that again?
I said me included, yelling you to shoot.
Oh, I didn't know you were at that game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So everyone yells at me to shoot. In the corner of my eye, my peripheral, as a point guard, I see Mark Krebs in the corner, and this is what's the cool part of the story. And so I go to literally lift up to shoot, and then the defender comes right at me, and I just pass it to my left and hit to Mark Krebs in the corner, and he drains a 3. It was my second career assist. It was his first career basket. He was a sophomore walk-on. He was on the team that won the national championship in 2012. And it's actually pretty cool. His mom was dying of cancer at the time, and that's the only bucket she ever saw him score.
Oh.
So not to get sentimental, but it's just one of those things where it's like my entire life it was like be a point guard, get the right ball to the right person at the right time, and him draining that three. And then I remember running back on defense, and he hugged me real quick. And then we just went back to defense for the last 30 seconds, which meant obviously nothing. But it's stories like that were just so cool, too, that you just don't think about how much it means to someone, even though Mark Krebs in his book about his mom wrote about that shot and gave me no credit for the assist. But
oh, my gosh.
That's that's another story.
Come on, Mark.
I'm still friends with him, so no big deal. But yeah, that's one of my core things. And it was just one of those things, again, where I can still, in my mind right now, just see all of Rupp Arena just like rising up. But then my decision was just throw it to my left as this defender's close. Because, this guy's like, I'm going to swat the crap out of this kid. Instead, I just threw it to the side, and Krebs drains this three in the corner. And it was just very cool to be a part of something like that.
The bigger issue here that I've just determined and found out is when I pull up that 07-08 Kentucky men's basketball team on Wikipedia, I don't see a number 4 Dusty Mills on the men's basketball team roster.
We should edit Wikipedia then.
I know. We've got to make an edit.
I'm on ESPN.com for that game, and does have Dusty Mills 1 minute, 1 assist, 0 points.
0 turnovers.
Yeah.
Hold on real quick before we keep going. I'm going to click on my name for ESPN. What's it show?
Wait.
4 games played, 1.3 minutes a game, bunch of zeros, 0.5 assists a game.
Oh,
there it is.
ACL has you beat.
0.5 fouls. Hey, but remember, like I said before, my career stats are still 2 assists, 0 turnovers. I think that's probably
the best assist to turnover ratio in the history of college basketball.
History.
Yes. Does it say your hometown's Noblesville, Indiana on there?
Yeah, it does. Birthplace, Noblesville, Indiana.
Love it. That's awesome. That's great. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna have to go in and fix it.
You can follow me. I'm going to click on this, see what happens. Okay, I'm following Dusty Mills. Idea what that's going to lead to.
I'm sure there's going to be many updates on that page.
Yep.
Over the next many years. Very much so. All right. Before we wrap things up, it's into show shout-outs. Nick, shout out to whoever you'd like to wrap this whole thing up.
I have 2 shout-outs. One's to be quick. I want to shout out Dusty. He says he's trying to be funnier. I think your Rick Pitino sausage thing in our interview was one of the funniest polls.
Oh, that was really well done, yes.
Well done, Krebs. I almost howled at that, so shout out to you. But I want to shout out Gary Trent Jr. and Sr. I heard this during a broadcast the other night. I don't know if I saw this. So listen to this like happenstance between the 2 players. For people who don't know, Gary Trent Jr. currently plays NBA, and his dad played NBA in the past.
Played at the Ohio University, by the way, Gary Trent Sr.
I did not know. See, we're all learning things.
Yeah.
I'll learn something you learn right now.
There you go.
So they were both traded 41 games into their 3rd year, okay?
Ooh.
And they were both traded from Portland to Toronto, and they were 23 years apart on the same day.
What?
It's one of the weirdest things I've ever heard in my life. 41 games in the 3rd year. It's from the same 2 teams, same day, 23 years apart. So shout out the Trent family. That's one of the most random coincidences I've ever heard in my life. So shout out to them. And Gary Trent Jr. from Indiana. So shout out.
Gary Trent Jr.'s carved out a pretty decent career in the NBA too.
Mm-hmm. Plays for our rival Bucks right now. So
he does indeed.
About that, but yeah, I had quadruple checked that was an accurate thing I heard. So shout out to them.
That's pretty incredible. Well done, Nick. Dusty, end of show shout out.
Yeah, Archie Clark.
I love how you always start these like we're supposed to know who these people are. No one, please enlighten us about it.
And their names are never David Jones. They're always some names like this. It's amazing.
Dick Butt.
Archie Clark is from Conway, Arkansas.
Okay. Home of Central Arkansas, right?
Do what?
Home of Central Arkansas, I believe.
Correct. He went to high school at Ecorse, Michigan. But then he was a basketball player at Minnesota and was their all-time assist leader.
Oh.
He also was their first African-American captain. He also played center field on the baseball team. He played in the NBA. He played for the Lakers, 76ers, Bullets, Supersonics, and Pistons. 2-time NBA All-Star. But most importantly, Clark was one of the first effective practitioners of the crossover dribble, and he inspired the nickname Shake and Bake.
Oh.
Wow.
Now, unfortunately, in 1987, he unsuccessfully ran for mayor of East Forest, Michigan, but turned things around in 1992. He co-founded the National Basketball Retired Players Association with Dave DeBusschere, Dave Bing, Dave Cowens, and Oscar Robertson.
Dave the Butcher, is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, DeBusschere. Yeah, Dave Bing, Dave Cowens, Oscar Robertson. Yeah, that was a big deal.
Yep. And also, the coolest part about it is the reason he got to Minnesota is he actually went to the Army and was playing intramural games, and was discovered from a scout from Minnesota and sent him there.
You know, he was part of the trade that brought Wilt Chamberlain to the Lakers.
There you go, even more.
There you go.
That crap? Damn.
Archie
Clark.
Why did him playing center field get included in that? I think that's one of the most random facts ever threw in there. Shout out Archie Clark, though.
Archie Clark.
And while he was also, while playing center field, Nick, played a major role in the squad's third national championship in 9 years in 1964.
Okay, I bite my tongue then.
Missouri.
Yeah,
I bite my tongue.
Also, Minnesota was a college baseball power?
Yeah, no kidding.
Didn't know that.
NAACP in Detroit.
Shout out Joe Mauer.
What a gentleman.
Okay, so Archie Clark.
Archie Clark, everyone. Fantastic. Simply put, my end of show shout out goes to Brian Hadad. I appreciate him coming on the pod. He's fantastic. Again, one of my favorite people in the world, and we really appreciate the time he gave to us, enlightening us about Mississippi State and SEC basketball. So he's got stories for days, and he and I, we unfortunately have to sit in our misery of having to watch Chelsea Football Club continue to ruin things for us while watching the Premier League because we're both Chelsea fans. But we both love good food. We love good soccer. We also enjoy our time watching basketball and football. He's a big Lakers fan, so unfortunately you have to hold that against him, being obviously the Pacers fan. But regardless, Brian, again, thank you. We appreciate you being on the pod. And that is going to do it for this.
And shout out to you, Robbie, for getting set up too.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm always fun to do this kind of stuff. So we'll have to do more guests as we move on. Obviously, Robert Woodard, our first guest with Mitch Storm. Then we got Brian Hadad. We're gonna venture out and add some more guests because I think that's a great and fun part of the pod, getting to do those kinds of things. So we forgot to mention this off the top. We're gonna prepare to do a Thursday midweek pod, like 20-30 minutes, just to say hey, catch up on what's been going on. It's not gonna be anything crazy. But it'll be a good opportunity to give you a little midweek reset as we move into the weekend for college hoops. So that will do it for this episode of the D1 and Done pod. For Dusty, for Nick, and for Brian Hadad, I'm Robbie Donahoe. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.